Hey everybody, watch this review here with a look at first appearance Wolverine from the Marvel Legends Face-Off series. He was packaged with Sabretooth, and at a little over 5¼ inches tall is the shortest Wolverine in the Marvel Legends line. That said, the difference is barely noticeable considering most people will instead be distracted by the difference in mask styles. However, guys like me, we obsess over these little details. I'm going to pull the Series 6 out of the way, just so people won't be distracted, but first off, I'm not sure how well this video is going to come out, just because the lighting looks kind of splotchy on my screen right now. Things look a little bit too bright, but it's actually more of a, I guess more of a mustardy yellow. At any rate, there's also a open mouth variant of this character available. I bought this guy loose. He came with my first Sentinel. He was bundled with him, which of course makes him one of my first Marvel Legends figures. At the time I wasn't all enthusiastic just because I didn't recognize the style and so forth, because, I mean, let's face it, he wore this costume for maybe 4 or 5 issues, and they weren't even like really the X-Men issues either, I think. Just like the Hulk appearances, and you know, I've only really seen reprints of those issues. However, the figure really grew on me, and as mentioned in other videos, he's probably my favorite Wolverine right now. Costume-wise, the big difference is his horns aren't as elongated and don't come down as far in the front. And of course, in addition to that, he also has whiskers, which you might not be able to pick up with the camera resolution, but they're thin lines going along the length there. Articulation-wise, he's also a little bit different from the more popular Wolverines, which generally use the Series 6 sculpt, and so that he does not have a torso joint or upper torso joint like this one does. Instead, he has an ab/diaphragm, meaning just up and down movement. I'm not actually doing the full extension there. In addition to that, he lacks floating shoulders, which means the claws can't do as much stuff as this one can. Which, of course, is the same sculpt that was used for the, I think it was the Red Hulk line. The claw length is also noticeably different. First App Wolverine has a tremendous amount of paint variation, and man, does it look great. There are really deeper shades of yellow in the center, which kind of lighten as it goes out for shadowing and so forth, and you'll also see slightly darker tones around the abs. I mean, it's just a really nice look. And in contrast to some of the other ones, he is like really cheesy painted on arm hairs, which is more of a comic style as opposed to the more realistic approach used on the other figures. But yeah, it's just a great look, right down to the just normal looking belt, as the whole just tattered together costume approach. There's really not a lot of vein detailing though, like you'll see one on this shoulder, then when you pull this out you'll see on this shoulder, but that's only because I flipped the shoulder around. I'm not sure how it was originally. But in terms of articulation, we have, by the way, I have to fix these claws at some point because they're all messed up. We have a point here at the fingers. You'll notice that the fingers ball out to make a perfect looking fist, but when they're open, it doesn't really look like anything. Kind of like on the Apocalypse, I think. We have a wrist that only moves back and forth, a rotating forearm, double jointed at the elbow, bicep joint, shoulder joint. I mean, kind of gets shaky at times. His head is set further back than the rest of, further forward than the rest of his body, so he has next to no head articulation, which is the one really major disappointment here. He can't really look up or down. Well, he can look kind of down, but he can't really look up without busting him. And his head can't move all that much side to side, except when you have his chin really far down. No, I can't get it back. There it goes. He has an ab/diaphragm joint. It doesn't really move far back, but it does move a considerable amount forward. Waist joint. One of those sort of crappy leg joints. I mean, it'll go forward and back straight, but these little ball things are occasionally get twisted around and so forth, and you have to move it just to get the legs to stand perfectly, whatever. That's why the patterning's different. Like this side, you'll see little creases and stuff, and there are no creases here because I flipped it around and the creases are on the back. But yeah, the ball joint leg, and then this flips around as mentioned. Double jointed knee. Then you have the ankle joint, or foot joint. It does not go side to side for some reason, or if it does, it just goes very little. Then a toe joint. All in all, I really like this figure. He even has, except for when you look into the peg in the back, you'll notice that he's actually hollow, which is kind of cheap, but this little peg will let him do some jumping poses and so forth, which is something lacking on a bunch of the other Wolverine figures. Not sure how many of them, because there's so many Wolverines floating around. But yeah, he's a very decent looking Wolverine. You know, can't say whether or not you should get this version, just because he's more of an acquired taste, really. And it's not really a traditional look for the character either, so, you know, it's just another strike against it. But personally, I'm a fan. I'm not sure about how everybody else feels.